Hi, Jason Rulo from Pinnacles Blog. Today's topic is race preparation. Yeah, I know a few blogs back we did talk about race preparation, but it wasn't as much focused on race prep week as it was an overall preparation program. This week I'm going to talk briefly about how to prep for a race the week of the race, and then what you're looking at as far as diet and train and your training for this week and that type of thing. Proper race focus for a 5K, 10K, and even up to a half marathon. Really, marathons and ultra marathons, the preparation is different. It has to be a little bit longer prep time for other than the last week or so. It's usually up to about 2 weeks. Regardless, prep time for the 5K, 10K, basically the last week you want to taper your training. And when I say taper your training, I mean back off it just a little bit. You're probably backing off to about 50% of the actual distance that you normally run, and figure in the amount of mileage for the race into your total race runs, or into your total distances for the week. So you want to back off at least about 50%. Let's say the race is on a Saturday, you're probably going to run on Monday, maybe even Tuesday and Wednesday, but then on Thursday and Friday, you want to not run at all. You want to, in fact, limit your exercise. If you do exercise as far as strength training with your trainer or whatever, you don't want to do too many legs during those 2 days. You want to make sure that the glycogen has a chance to replenish itself in those muscles, so because they are involved in the race specifically, and overtaxing will be counterproductive, especially since you spent so much time preparing for the race. So basically no running those last 2 days. It's not going to affect you. Actually, you won't see any detraining effects for like the last 14 days. So you could essentially take the last 2 weeks off and it wouldn't really affect your actual physiology of running. Now, it may affect your mental state, but it won't affect your physiology. The other thing is you want to make sure that you eat a good meal the night before the race. Now, you don't need to go crazy, and this may be the only time you ever hear me recommend pizza, but pizza is actually the optimal pre-race workout or pre-race food, prep food for any type of a race. Now, you don't want to go crazy. You eat too much pizza, you eat too much fat. It's going to have a negative impact during the race. You're going to be making a lot of pit stops, let me say, because of the digestion of the fats will slow everything down and will give you some gastric distress the next morning. So you want to keep it within range, whatever you would normally eat. So let's say 2 pieces of pizza or so. That's about 500 calories, 600 calories, but it's high in carbohydrates, which is going to help keep those muscles full of glycogen, muscle sugar. And then it's also going to provide a decent amount of sodium, which you need the day before a race to ensure that you're not going to be dehydrated during the race. So pizza the night before, the morning of, you want to wake up about 2 hours before the race. If for nothing else, the fact you want to make sure you're not late. But 2 hours before the race, that'll allow you to eat about an hour before the race. Give your body plenty of time to start digesting that food, get it out of the stomach and whatnot. But optimally, the day of a race, a bagel sandwich, a bagel and egg sandwich would be optimal. You want to limit the amount of fat that you're taking in the morning of. Again, going back to digestive issues there. Limit the amount of fat. That'll make sure that the stuff is getting digested quickly. But having a decent amount of protein will help fuel the muscles and that type of thing. So a bacon and egg sandwich is probably the best option. You can choose whatever if you prefer oatmeal with a glass of milk or something, that's fine too. I'm just giving an example for that. But also, as far as the race is concerned, the actual running of the race, tips on that are basically you need to know pacing. A lot of runners run, they just run. They don't really know what their pace is. They don't really know. You got to make sure that you understand the pace at which you are comfortable with running. If it's an 8.5 minute mile, it's an 8.5 minute mile. If it's a 10-minute mile, it's a 10-minute mile. But understanding that that is what your pace is. And then when you go run a race, adrenaline kicks in, you get the competition juices flowing. You can probably handle a little bit above that. So maybe just push yourself just a little bit above and you'll be able to complete it most likely. Another way to keep yourself good and motivated is to constantly pick out new people as challenges to pass. So you say, okay, I'm going to pass that woman in the red up there. And you run and you pass her, and you pick out another person. That will constantly give you new challenges. Now, that doesn't mean you have to run outside your race. Still run your own pace. Keep the pace you want to keep. But you're looking for little landmarks, little things to show, okay, I'm making progress, I'm passing that person, I'm going to pass this person. It'll keep you moving forward, it'll keep you moving as fast as you can, and it'll also make it a little bit more fun with mini competitions along the way. So, The last thing you want to make sure is that you finish strong. Sprint that last half mile or so. You can make it. You'll be able to finish. The adrenaline will be pumping. You'll be able to get going. If you ask my trainer Janet last year, she ran basically a sprint the entire 5K. So it's possible, especially with the pumpkin run. It's a little bit flat. That type of thing makes it a lot easier because you don't have to worry about what hills are coming next and that type of thing. But do finish strong. Try to get the best time you possibly can. Post-race, now it's time to recover. Just because you're done racing doesn't mean you're done overall. You need to make sure that you recover from it. If you're running the Gumbo Flats Pumpkin Run, I can attest they have plenty of food and drink for recovery. So you want to make sure you get good recovery. Don't go, it's not a license to eat, because if you've only run a 5 to 10K, you burned off a decent amount of calories, maybe 500 to 1,000, a half marathon, maybe even up to 1,500. But it's not a license to go have Thanksgiving meal early here. But you do want to make sure you get some protein, some carbohydrates, plenty of water in to recover there. As far as water during the race, you want to make sure that you are taking in a decent amount of water during the race, at least about 8 ounces every 15 minutes. So give or take, on a 5K, you're looking at maybe 1, maybe 2 water stops. 1 you can probably get away with. With a 10K, you get looking at 2 to 3 minimum water stops. And then with a half marathon type, you're looking at 4 to 6 water stops, or about 48 ounces of water need to be taken in during the race itself. It's just to make sure that you stay plenty hydrated and that you are able to keep yourself from cramping. Gatorade will work well in preventing cramps and that type of thing. If it's something that you are used to drinking, then you can go ahead and drink that. If you're not so used to it, you might want to shy away from it. Eating is not completely 100% necessary during any of these races shorter than a marathon, because the time frame in which you're running is much less likely to cause the bonking effect or a severe drop in blood sugar. So it may not be necessary, but you can take a goo or something small along with you to pep you up just in case you need it. Any other questions, please ask your trainer or contact me. Feel free to leave questions or comments on the blog. We'll see you next week.